officially letting Hazel go from the roster. Hazel-E, you are too old to be acting this young. We're done. Dead on it. We're done. I'd rather be with a young bitch if you feel me? Dead on it.
Hazel-E just lit a match, tossed it into Blueface's gas-soaked reputation, and walked away like a villain in a Marvel ending scene. What you're about to hear makes the Kardashians' entire 20-season saga look like a silent nature documentary narrated by a squirrel. Because according to Hazel-E, Blueface's biggest secret isn't the baby mama battlefield, the courtroom music videos, or the Zeus Network Trauma Olympics. It's what she claims she knows about Junior. The mysterious mini Blue whose DNA drama has already split the internet into more factions than a Marvel multiverse. Hazel didn't just speak out. No, she dragged out alleged receipts, kicked open closets, and let every concealed skeleton tap dance in public wearing LED boots. The tone wasn't calm. It wasn't classy. It was the energy of someone who waited, collected, observed, and then chose violence with a Wi-Fi connection. And Blueface, he didn't even see it coming. One day he's laughing on live, trolling like usual. And the next, Hazel's hinting that JR's story is darker, messier, and far more explosive than anyone ever imagined. Forget popcorn. Grab a helmet. Because when Hazel gets petty, the blast radius isn't measured in inches, it's continents. Hazel-E didn't just wake up one morning and decide to drop detonators on Blueface's name. This has been simmering like a pressure cooker with a broken gauge. Rumors of harsh words, behind-the-scenes drama, and tense calls were floating for months. There were whispers about Junior, questions nobody wanted to ask publicly, and uncomfortable side-eyes every time the situation was mentioned. Hazel stayed quiet, and people thought it was peace. What they didn't know was that it was patience, sharpening itself like a blade waiting for the moment Blueface slipped. When she finally spoke, the tone was icy enough to frostbite egos. She implied that certain details about JR's situation were never transparent, hinting that Blueface played chess with silence while the public argued over theories. It wasn't a rant. It was a surgical strike. Calm voice, loaded words, the kind that leave echoes behind. And every listener felt that eerie sensation, as if Hazel wasn't just scratching the surface, but hinting that the surface itself was a lie. The shock didn't come from what she said, but what she strongly implied still remained hidden. People online began connecting dots that shouldn't have touched. Screenshots resurfaced. Old clips started trending. Fans rewound lives, flowed audio, and acted like they were decoding a mysterious FBI briefing. If Hazel's tone was deliberate, the internet's reaction was chaotic. Curious commenters started digging into every moment Junior was mentioned. They wanted the missing pieces, and suddenly, Blueface's usual confidence looked more like someone dodging shadows than laughing at them. The silence from his side only made the theories grow. Teeth, Hazel's claims suggested that the narrative surrounding Junior was built on selective truth, the kind that only shines if nobody looks at it under a different bulb. She did not accuse outright, but every sentence dripped with the message that Blueface had more to explain. People who once brushed off DNA speculations found themselves rethinking everything. Why did timelines never align perfectly? Why did certain relatives drop cryptic lines that never made sense until Hazel invoked them? The puzzle was finally taking shape, and it looked uglier than expected. Blueface's family didn't help the situation either. Past comments began sounding prophetic. Carlos's infamous mouth, usually dismissed as dramatic chaos, suddenly seemed like it might have been early foreshadowing. The jokes weren't as funny anymore. They sounded like warning alarms. Hazel's statements cracked the foundation. If she was bluffing, it was genius. If she wasn't, it was even worse. And either way, it pushed the public into a frenzy of what else are they hiding? Someone even wrote, Hazel just unlocked a DLC to Blueface's storyline that we never bought but desperately needed. Then came the receipts, not screenshots of arguments or petty. The Miz, but references to people who were allegedly present during confusing timelines. Hazel claimed certain dates never matched, that JR's situation was riddled with contradictions, and that Blueface himself was too comfortable letting the public guess while he smirked in the background. She implied that someone close to Blueface knew more than they ever admitted. The internet began naming suspects, pointing fingers, and digging archives like unpaid digital archaeologists. Every maybe started sounding like probably, streams, podcasts, reaction channels, and gossip pages exploded with commentary. Even platforms that normally ignored Blueface's drama suddenly cared. Hazel's tone made everything sound like a cover-up waiting to peel. People scrolled back months and found moments that seemed innocent but now felt like foreshadowing. The baby pictures, the hospital visits, the cryptic captions. Nothing looked harmless anymore. Hazel wasn't just telling a story, she was flipping every angle and forcing everyone to question the image Blueface curated. What made this even more volatile was that Hazel had nothing to gain. That's what made people listen. When someone exposes a scandal to save themselves, it looks like desperation. But Hazel's energy didn't match survival, it matched liberation. It sounded like someone who was tired of being quiet, tired of watching confusion reign, tired of pretending everything added up. And that made everything she said feel heavier. Whether the public fully believed her or not, everyone sensed she didn't speak randomly. And as the first wave of reaction settled, one thing became clear. Hazel wasn't bluffing for attention. If anything, she was holding back. She hinted at more conversations, more inconsistencies, and more people who weren't ready for their names to be dragged into the spotlight. Blueface could joke. He could laugh online, but the internet was now watching his every blink, every phrase, every post. Because once someone claims there's more dirt, the world doesn't move on. It digs harder. The energy shifted fast, like someone yanked the room's lighting from soft gold to interrogation fluorescent. Blueface might have thought he could drown the noise with memes, sarcasm, and half-hearted jokes. But this time the internet wasn't buying the comedy routine. Hazel's tone had changed everything. Suddenly, every smirk looked suspicious. Every punchline felt like a deflection, and every shrug seemed like a shield. Even fans who defended him for months started writing, "Okay, but why does this low-key make sense?" TikTok edits popped up with slow-motion clips and spooky music. Like this was the pilot episode of a true crime series instead of hip-hop drama. Then came the celebrity reactions, the messy kind that shouldn't exist, but the internet forces out anyway. A couple of D-list personalities claimed they heard whispers long ago but stayed quiet out of respect. One rapper tweeted something ambiguous about truth always leaking eventually. It had no names, no context, but everyone interpreted it a shade toward Blueface. Comment sections became digital courtrooms, with Hazel painted as the unexpected whistleblower and Blueface sitting in the defendant's chair made of iced-out chains and stubborn ego. Even meme pages joined the riot, posting exaggerated timelines that made the whole saga look like a Shakespeare tragedy directed by Zeus Network producers. Pop culture comparisons poured in like rainfall. Some said this could outdrama Tristan and Chloe's and Tyron be a soap opera. Others claimed it made Will and Jada's entanglement look like a minor scheduling conflict. Someone tweeted, "Hazel just dropped lore expansion like she's the DLC creator of Blueface's life." The viral exaggeration only fueled more curiosity. Every influencer weighed in. Every gossip podcaster dissected Hazel's wording. And reaction channels paused every syllable like they were analyzing a crime confession. Somehow, Hazel had turned passive internet spectators into hunters on the verge of exposing a government cover-up. And Blueface's silence became louder than anything he could have said. People waited for a rebuttal, a clapback, even a petty subtweet. Nothing. Just regular posts like life was normal. That only made suspicion grow roots. Because when someone is unbothered on the surface, it either means they're innocent or terrified the next sentence Hazel drops might collapse the entire narrative. Even those who believed Junior was unquestionably connected to Blueface started asking themselves why Hazel spoke with the confidence of someone holding screenshots, recordings, or names nobody expected. Hazel didn't need to go live screaming or throw tantrums. She dropped breadcrumbs with the calmness of a storyteller who knows the last chapter holds the punchline. She implied people in the inner circle had been covering inconsistencies for months. That certain relatives spoke to freely early on because they assumed the world would forget. Now, look back through Hazel's lens. Those same clips felt eerie. The jokes weren't jokes anymore. They sounded like accidental confessions. The internet turned into detectives who rewatched old lives like forensic investigators combing through CCTV. Public outrage grew faster than wildfire with a can of gasoline. JR's name was trending again, but not as the symbol of innocence he once represented. Now he was caught in the storm of unanswered questions. Blueface fans accused Hazel of stirring chaos. Hazel supporters accused Blueface of hiding the full picture. And everyone else grabbed sacks and watched like it was peak reality TV. Commenters called for interviews. Podcasts begged Hazel to guest star. Someone even wrote a parody skit about JR's birth being a conspiracy bigger than Area 51. The jokes were relentless, but under them sat a tension nobody could laugh away. When Hazel mentioned inconsistencies in medical details, timelines, and the handling of certain decisions, the tone online snapped. Gone were the playful comments. Now people demanded clarity. If she was lying, they wanted Blueface to expose it. If she wasn't, they wanted the truth. Reaction channels replayed her words, analyzing tone, cadence, and emotion. One creator even slowed the footage down like a ghost hunter looking for paranormal proof. The entire situation started to resemble those Netflix docuseries where every episode ends with the viewer whispering, "Wait, what if everything we knew was wrong?" New theories were born every hour. Some believed Blueface kept quiet to avoid dragging more names into the spotlight. Others thought Hazel was just the first domino, and more voices were ready to fall. A few even predicted that someone else would go live soon, either to defend Blueface or confirm Hazel's hints. The more people debated, the more Hazel looked like the unlikely heroine in a scandal script she never planned to write. And the silence from everyone else only heightened that effect. Even those who didn't fully trust her admitted she sounded like someone with information too sharp to fabricate casually. Screenshots of old posts resurfaced, and suddenly context shifted. What once looked like joyful captions now read like coded messages. A vague quote from months ago got dragged back into circulation and framed like evidence from a long-buried case file. Social media's collective memory sharpened. They weren't just listening to Hazel, they were reconstructing history through hindsight. And the more they dug, the less certain anything felt. Commenters wrote that the dots were dotting and the math was mathing too hard. As reactions spiraled, Hazel remained composed. No extra rants, no defensive essays. Just the look of someone who said what needed to be said and wasn't worried about proving anything. That alone triggered more uproar, because silence from both sides meant the truth sat somewhere in between. And that territory is where scandals breed. Nobody wanted to blink. Nobody wanted to move on. Everyone just waited for the next post, the next hint, the next revelation that would either clear the air or blow it to nuclear smoke. Online culture thrives on cliffhangers, and Hazel created one without even trying. Influencers begged her for more details. Commenters pleaded. Blueface's name was brought up in every messy debate thread. JR's identity turned into a symbol of unanswered questions. And through it all, Hazel stood firm, confident, deliberate, and unmistakably prepared for whatever storm followed her words. Because when someone speaks with that kind of certainty, you know they're not scared of flames. They're waiting for them. The aftershocks were brutal, like the online world collectively woke up with a scandal hangover and realized nothing would feel normal again. What Hazel had implied became the lens through which every post, every live, every stray comment from Blueface's camp was judged. Suddenly, even the smallest detail felt like a confession disguised as sarcasm. The fandom split almost surgically, half demanding answers, half trying to downplay everything as another social media meltdown. But the tone had shifted. The innocence that once framed Jair's story was gone. In its place was a fog of suspicion thick enough to cut with a razor. Blueface didn't crack publicly, but the silence became a narrative of its own. Internet watchers started timing how long it had been since Hazel spoke and when he posted next, like the entire situation was a chess game and they were betting money on the final move. Even people who once laughed at Carlos's chaotic predictions began asking whether she accidentally told the truth months ago. Old interviews resurfaced, clips were ripped, edited, slowed, and re-uploaded as evidence compilations. The whole ecosystem turned JR's history into a digital excavation. And no matter how anyone tried to move the conversation elsewhere, Hazel's data stayed pinned to every theory. Hazel herself emerged looking clearer and more resolute. Instead of being painted as dramatic or messy, she suddenly looked like someone who refused to let confusion become normal. Viewers pointed out that she didn't scream, threaten, or spiral. She spoke with eerie control. That made her revelations feel less like gossip and more like a quiet unveiling. And when someone exposes something calmly instead of begging to be believed, it becomes harder for the public to dismiss them. Even skeptics admitted she sounded like someone with more in the vault than she revealed. Blueface's reputation bled slowly. Not a dramatic implosion, but a steady drip of doubt. Every time he tried to post casually, comments dragged him back to Hazel's claims. Questions flooded timelines. Why hasn't he addressed anything? If it's not true, where's the denial? He could brush off memes, but he couldn't brush off the silence. Because silence can be mistaken for guilt, hesitation, or simply a desperate attempt to let time bury the mess. The public, however, wasn't done digging. They demanded clarity with the persistence of detectives who smelled missing pieces. The situation carved new cracks into relationships around him. Friends grew quieter. Relatives who once commented boldly stayed in the shadows. Interviews felt strained. Even timelines from months ago were now viewed through Hazel's implication that there were inconsistencies nobody should have ignored. The narrative of comfortable secrecy slowly collapsed. Fans who once defended every move started shifting, not to hatred, but to confusion, the kind that makes people question everything they once decided was fact. And confusion is more dangerous than outrage, because it doesn't burn fast. It lingers. Meanwhile, Hazel's words became a cultural checkpoint. Before Hazel spoke and after Hazel spoke became the online timestamps everyone used. Gossip pages treated her revelations like the moment the curtain ripped open. Podcasters speculated that her calm confidence meant there was more coming, unspoken layers, untouched facts, and names yet to surface. Someone even commented that she looked like a person who refused to lie anymore, even if the silence stayed painful or inconvenient. Whether she was right or wrong no longer mattered as much as the fact that her words created a fracture nobody could seal back up. It also reshaped how the public viewed JR. Instead of being the symbol of a storyline wrapped in chaos, he was now the center of a debate larger than fan wars. People weren't mocking the situation anymore. They were dissecting it. Hollywood reporters brought it up as a case study in celebrity transparency. Online analysts questioned how fame handled truth when millions were watching. The internet forgot the jokes and focused on the possibility that Hazel asked the questions nobody else had the courage to drag into daylight. Some speculated that Hazel's revelations forced conversations behind closed doors, that Blueface's private circle was scrambling to decide what to say or how to frame the truth if more details leaked. Others believed he would simply go on pretending Hazel never spoke, letting controversy age like milk instead of wine. But no matter how he tried to distance himself, the public kept yanking the conversation back to that single storm Hazel unleashed. Schools of thought emerged. Some believed Hazel struck with honesty. Others believed she was exposing loyalty violations within the circle. And a few even feared the story wasn't finished. At the end of the noise, one thing settled like dust: Hazel's voice was the match. But the fire only spread because people recognized smoke that was always there. Her revelations didn't invent uncertainty, they revealed it. And the world realized that the narrative surrounding Junior was never as airtight as Blueface made it seem. Whether Hazel had more proof or not didn't matter anymore, because perception had taken over. Once a story is cracked open, even slightly, imagination does the rest. The fallout wasn't explosive headlines or screaming matches. It was quieter, darker, and sharper. A lingering question hung over the culture like a storm cloud that refused to move. What if Hazel wasn't bluffing? What if everything the public argued about, laughed at, and speculated over was actually pointing at something everyone was too afraid to say out loud? No one cared about fan favoritism anymore. They cared about truth, whatever shape it took, however ugly it looked, and whoever it humiliated. And as both Hazel and Blueface carried on publicly, everyone kept watching their words with tightened curiosity. The audience didn't expect closure. They expected escalation. Because when someone hints at deeper secrets, the world becomes addicted to suspense. Every new post from Hazel felt like a possible continuation. Every silent day from Blueface felt like another layer of uncertainty. Hazel didn't just speak, she rewired the narrative. Blueface didn't just stay silent, he deepened it. And JR's story, once dismissed as standard celebrity baby drama, turned into a cultural riddle that people weren't ready to stop solving. The aftermath wasn't explosive, but it was permanent. Because even if nobody ever confirms or denies another word, the doubt that Hazel planted will live longer than any scandal Blueface survived before. And that's the kind of fallout no apology, no post, no livestream can clean up. The internet won't forget. It will wait. It always does, if you made it all the way here. Congratulations, you just walked through a digital minefield of secrets, suspicion, ego, and the kind of celebrity chaos that makes Hollywood tabloids look like children's picture books. Hazel didn't just shake the table, she flipped it, poured gasoline, and walked away while the internet replayed every frame in slow motion. Whether you side with Blueface or Hazel, or you're just here for the popcorn and petty theories, one thing stamped in permanent ink: this saga is nowhere near finished. We're talking fallout that doesn't just fade, it marinates, spreads, and comes back louder than before. Like a scandal boomerang with speakers attached. So here's what you need to do before Hazel drops another breadcrumb or Blueface accidentally blinks suspiciously on camera. Smash that like button like it owes you money. Drop a comment with your wildest theory, because trust me, someone's going to read it and spiral deeper. And hit that subscribe button like you're slamming a courtroom gavel, because around here, scandals don't sleep. They respawn. They mutate. They show up at 3 a.m. wearing sunglasses and holding mysterious documents. This space is where the whispers get louder, the leaks get juicier, and the truth, whatever it is, shows up when you least expect it. So buckle up, because if Hazel lit the first flame, you better believe more sparks are coming. And when they do, you'll want to be right here, front row, locked in, because reality has plot twists, but Scandal Spark has explosions.